Hi, this is Ian from IBI Performance Coaching, and today I'm going to present a single phrase that you can use to completely change your life. Enjoy. Before we talk about the single phrase that if you use it consistently and wisely, you can completely change your life, we need to talk about three factors that are locked in an interdependent, interdeterminative relationship. And those three factors are be, do, and have. Be is related to your identity, do is related to your actions, and have is related to your possessions. Many people, whether they know it or not, define themselves first by what they have, by their possessions, by the things they own. That then leads them to their actions, their do, and finally, their actions define their being, their identity. So, an example might be I have a business, so I run that business. Therefore, I am an entrepreneur. Have, do, be. I have a lot of money, so I invest that money wisely, so I am rich. Have, do, be. But the relationship between these three factors is, as I said, interdependent. Each one can drive the others. It doesn't have to go in any particular order. So you could start with do. You could say, I save money, the action, so I have more money, so I am wealthy, something like that. But what I want to suggest here is that for many people in many situations, the most effective lever to act on will actually be the identity lever, the be part of this relationship. Just like your behavior can drive your sense of yourself, your sense of yourself drives your behavior. And obviously, your behavior then produces what it is that you have. Not always and not 100% reliably. Obviously, the world is unpredictable. But if you behave in a certain way reliably, you are more likely to have the things that are associated with those behaviors. I think we can all agree to that. Okay, so I'm going to introduce now something called the identity model of decision making. The identity model of decision making is not the sort of rational consumer model that we typically assume is functioning in most people's lives. The sort of rational model would be something like, what do I want? What might I do to get that thing? What's the best option? And then do that thing. Okay, so it starts with asking what it is that I want. And this is the rational model because rational comes from the word ratio, as in inputs versus outputs. So if I want to go to the train station to take a train somewhere, the rational thing to do would be to walk straight there because the input of energy gives me the highest output vis-a-vis that input, right? The best return on investment, you could say. Whereas an irrational thing to do would be to walk in the other direction, away from the station, if really what I want is to go to the station, because then I have to put in a ton of input and I don't get the output that I'm looking for. So there's a very poor return on investment. There's a very poor ratio of input to output there. That's the rational model. The identity model starts with the question, who am I? Or what kind of person am I? The second question, what kind of situation is this? What kind of person am I? What kind of situation is this? And the third, final question, what would a person like me do in a situation like this? And then that determines how you act. And if you pay close attention, that identity model is what drives us very often. Think about the pervasiveness of tribalism in our society today. It's not rational. I mean, you could explain it rationally. There are absolutely rational explanations for it. But you can perhaps more easily describe it using this identity model of decision making. So once we recognize this identity model decision making, we have to then also recognize that if we can change our idea of who we are, we will change the behaviors that we engage in. So, what kind of person am I? I'm the kind of person who exercises regardless of whether or not they feel like it. What kind of situation is this? I feel tired and a little bit run down. Okay, what would a person like me do in a kind of situation like this? I would exercise anyway. Now, I'm not saying I advocate that you do that. There are definitely times to, take the day off, come back with it, come back with renewed energy and vigor, really hit the exercise hard. It's just an example of how this model might function to produce behaviors. So how do we make use of this revelation about identity driving behavior? We do that with a single phrase. Because you might be saying, well, how do you change your identity without changing your behaviors? Very good question, right? Because you might say, oh, but I don't exercise when I'm not feeling like it. So how do I make myself, identify as the kind of person who does? And that's where this phrase comes in. The single phrase that, if you use it consistently and proficiently, will entirely change your life is the phrase, that's like me. That's like me. So what do we use this phrase for? We use it to notice and reinforce behaviors that we do naturally. Now, if we're trying to drive behavior change with, trying to drive identity change with behaviors, you would be identifying what behaviors you want to engage in and then forcing yourself to engage in those behaviors repeatedly. Identify and force. What we want to do if we're going to drive our behavior from our identity is we want to notice the things that we're already doing and reinforce those. Okay. So let's say you maybe you don't feel like exercising that day, but you do, make sure that you eat a healthy meal. Well, it's not exactly exercising, but it's related to sort of taking care of your health. It's all part of that same identity of being the kind of person who does the thing that is better for your body, regardless of whether or not you feel like it. And you might then notice, oh, well, I might not have exercised, but I did eat a healthy meal. Notice and reinforce with the phrase, that's like me. This is something that I do. That's like me. Okay. This is this is indicative or characteristic of who I am. This simple awareness, the power of it cannot be overstated. Awareness and reinforcement. If you really want to drive behavior, identity change, it starts with identifying things that you're doing and reinforcing them. And this goes for yourself, it goes for other people as well. So if you're in some sort of leadership position, and almost all of us are, find the things that the person's already doing well and reinforce them when they happen. Okay, and this will be much more effective than identifying what you want, what is associated with that desired identity, and then forcing yourself to do it, because at some point your willpower runs out. Whereas the behaviors you engage in naturally, you're engaging in naturally. Okay, the flip side of this coin, of the that's like me coin, is the phrase that's not like me. And you're going to use this to distance yourself from behaviors that you associate with identities that you don't want to take on. So, if you hit the snooze button 5 times or something like that, that would be a perfect instance when you finally do get up and say, wow, that's not like me. I wonder what was going on today. That's not like me. That's not like me. And by distancing your identity from that behavior, you're moving the spotlight of your attention onto contextual elements that came into play. Well, I did go to sleep late last night because I was working on this thing, so maybe in the future I should, avoid working super late on projects that will then keep me from getting up on time, yada, 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 right? So you're moving it to things that you can actually adjust, places that you can make meaningful changes, rather than shaming yourself, guilting yourself, and heaping a whole lot of, this is not who I should be on yourself. That won't really help. Okay, so those are your two phrases. That's like me, that's not like me. Use them frequently, use them liberally, but also use them wisely to identify behaviors that move you towards that behavior that you want and behaviors that keep you from adopting that identity that you want. When you reinforce the identity through what you naturally engage in, it's like a back door. And once you have started to establish, every time you say that's like me, you're basically laying another brick in that identity. And the more solid and the more built up that identity becomes, the more natural the behaviors that are associated with it will flow from you. And it will be a sort of reinforcing feedback loop where you have more behaviors to then say, well, that's like me. Now you're laying more bricks. And the more bricks produce, a stronger foundation, produce more behaviors that you like, produce more that's like me's, and the whole thing cycles. All right, let me know if you have any questions down below about how to put this into use. I hope that this is useful for everybody who's watching. Thank you so much for your attention, just watching the video. I really do appreciate every second that you spend with this channel and all of the people that like and do all the things that support a channel. I do appreciate you as well. If you want to join a Facebook group, it's down below, and you've got links to the exercise programs that I've put together that are really, I think, probably the most efficient and some of the most effective exercise programs that you will find anywhere. So, thank you so much, and I'm going to sign out here and remind you that excellence is a habit. Elite performance is just a choice. So, go make that choice for yourself.